Approval of the agenda?
Second.
Okay, motion and second. Any discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Okay, we have Heart and Soul fireworks permit application. Anybody here to comment? No, I'm okay. It's still not on. Well,
This is the same as has been done in previous years, correct?
yeah, the date is June 8th, though, this year. So I just want to make sure that we have everything in order. And
Paul Morse, Assistant Fire Chief. I haven't seen the application. I just found out about it today, but as far as I know, everything is the same as last year, and everything should be in order.
And they're going to set up on that side road and
Yep.
9:30 and
Yep.
all that. Okay.
Lyndon, have you heard any different?
No,
Okay. Yep, I
Paul-
think it is the same too.
Would you refresh us? Do you have a truck on site, or do we just wait for the 911 call if that?
We wait for a big fire to get going, and then because we like. No, we'll have a grass rig out there like we always do. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you, Paul.
You bet.
Entertain a motion.
Move to approve.
Okay, motion and second. Any other discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Okay, motion carried.
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. We are adjourned. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
We have invocation from Trinity Lutheran here.
Yes, sir. Pastor Chris Baszler. Let's pray. God of justice and grace, we thank you for giving us life today. We thank you for the opportunity to serve the people of Mitchell. We ask today that you'd remind us of the truth that our authority comes from you and that we're caretakers of it here on this earth. We ask this so that our actions may be of good character and the true convictions of our hearts. Help us to listen to each other tonight with the intention of seeking understanding rather than silencing oppositions. Help our words to be ones of kindness. Give us your spirit of service and enable us to see the humanity and dignity of every person, especially those who might disagree with us. May we treat everyone with reverence. Give us joy as we work together to create a community that's worthy of you. We ask this as your beloved children, confident in your goodness. Amen. Thank you.
Thank you. Roll call.
Olson,
Here.
Rice,
Here.
Dosher, McCardle,
Here.
Barrington,
Here.
Allen, Sharks, Smith.
Here.
I don't think Danny's going to make tonight. He's out farming. Something about paying his bills. So yeah, no money. He won't make it tonight. He's farming. So.
The first thing on the agenda is the approval of the consent agenda items. Items appearing on the consent agenda may be removed by a city council member for discussion at the beginning of the formal agenda items.
I don't have anything to remove, but I do have one question on item K for the alternate detour that's going to go the kind of behind the Highland and by Blarney's type stuff. What would be the approximate dates and length that might occur? I know part of it might be related to rain, but how long are they going to be digging at the intersection where they might route the traffic that way?
Council member, for the record, Kyle Croce, Public Works. At this time, the DOT was scheduled to start that closure on the 14th.
14th of May?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
And it roughly should last approximately 6 weeks. 6 weeks.
So we'll have truck traffic going that way for that 6 week time frame? I mean,
No. truck
the
traffic is
livestock and
that traffic is routed actually to the south to, I believe it's 256.
they're
and around.
Oh, okay.
Right. It's local traffic only
Okay.
with the cars.
Okay, that's what I wanted to hear. Thank you.
Is there a motion to approve?
Second.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Oh, I did forget that. Roll call.
Smith.
Aye.
Sharps. Aye. Barrington.
Aye.
McCardle.
Aye.
Gosher. Rice.
Aye.
Olson.
Aye. Approved. Citizens input. If you need to address the mayor and members of the city council on an item that was not on the agenda, excluding personnel items, please come forward to the podium and state your name and your concern. Presentations are limited to 3 minutes. Items will be considered, but no action will be taken at this time. I think the first thing I'm going to mention before anyone starts here, I want to remind everybody that on May the 26th, we are having our Veterans Park dedication ceremony. Last week we got in some new medallions to celebrate that occasion, and they are available for sale at City Hall here. They're available at the Public Safety Department and also at the American Legion. So buy them before they run out and buy plenty. Thank you. They're $20 a piece. May 26th, 11 o'clock. 11 o'clock. 11 o'clock in the morning, yes.
I had a couple calls on, the bricks out in front of the Corn Palace, those new little bricks they put out there. No, on the sidewalk, right in front of the Corn. There's the little bricks with the sand in them.
I'm sorry.
Right in front of the Corn Palace.
Did you say bridge or bricks?
Bricks.
Okay.
Bricks.
Yep.
That they're people. I had a couple people say they almost I looked at it when I drove in tonight, and they're.
I do have
not real
project
level.
updates on the agenda today. I was going to update council on that. The remaining plaza items will be completed starting this month. They've got the dirt moved and the new. I think they're cedar chips that's in the landscaping. The pavers, they're starting the removal and replacement of those either today, I thought he said, or this week at least.
Is that the bricks though, or?
Yeah, that's the bricks, the pavers.
Okay.
So that was going to be part of my project updates for you.
Okay. I just had a couple calls on it.
Yep, they are being repaired.
Is there anyone in the audience that wants to come up to the podium and address the council?
I just thought I'd do a little shout out to Mitchell Main Street and Beyond for a fantastic first Friday on Friday night. I think that the fact that Mitchell Tech's graduation was going on at the same time just added to the festive atmosphere. I think that they had to feel good coming out and seeing all those people there. It was a fantastic turnout. The car show was great. I just went down and I thought, man, this is what it's all about. There was a lot going on and felt really like there was a great sense of community. So congratulations to Jen and the rest of the team that put that on.
If no one else, then we'll start with the committee report for public health and safety.
Public Health and Safety met tonight at 6 p.m. We had one agenda item, and that was the fireworks permit for the Heart and Soul Cancer Walk on June 8th. That was approved by voice vote, and we adjourned at 6:02.
Motion to approve it.
Move to approve the report.
Second.
All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Next on the agenda is project updates. Stephanie?
Just to complete the rest of the project updates, along with the plaza closeout items, we did discuss the pavers. The plantings are being finished. They got the dirt work moved in and the new irrigation drip in the planters installed. The mulch was laid. We did have some help from Dakota Wesleyan students during their annual day of caring that helped with some of that landscaping. And then there's some replantings that are just part of the winter, they come back in the year and see what needs to be replaced. They had some reseeding they had to do on the grass, and then the sprinkler system should be started up this month as well. So those items are all underway. The pool, we did have a tour of the pool last week. It's about 90% complete at this point. I did include a copy of the current budget with the council packet on the consent agenda items. We are still within the construction budget under $13,000, right at $13,000 over under what the construction estimate was. So our change orders have resulted in a net decrease. There were 2 change orders that made us go over, but those were both funded by outside sources. One was the Mitchell Aquatics Club, and the other one was Pepsi's contribution for the slide. So that's the construction update on that one. We're still on schedule at this point. There's discussion about potentially at most a week delay, but that's going to be finalized this week. So we're still looking mid-June as being final completion, with early June being substantial completion. We do have our next walkthrough on May 31st. If the council would like to participate in that one, because that will be close to substantial completion, we could move that till after 5 again to make that easier for people to attend rather than doing it at noon. I'll just need to hear back from council on that one. 2 other updates. I was asked, and actually Dan's not here today, but he had requested some information on where we're at with additional snow removal costs based on the spring that we had. I guess I can't even really say winter when it's snowing into April. I did have the divisions that have those costs that go up during snow removal put together their cost estimations. What they did is took January through April of 2018 and compared it to January through April of 2017. And as you can see, I did pass it out this morning. I think I have it right here too. So you can see for streets, we're at 41,500, park and rec 850, and then airport was 22,300. So our total that we're going to earmark in contingency would be 64,650. And then just like previous years, we don't do those transfers till the end of the year based on whether the budget really needs it or not. But that way we have it there in case it's necessary. We may not have snow removal in the fall, so we'll just see how the budgets end on those. But those are set aside for this time. And then the only other one was we did have our initial meeting with the business owners that would be right what would normally be 8th Street on Sanborn. We met with those business owners, I think it's been 2 weeks ago now, to discuss how we could potentially provide access during that north section of construction so we can move forward with discussing the 2nd and 3rd phases of Sanborn. Likewise, I did get the application sent off to the state for the water plan for both sanitary sewer and storm sewer so that we can apply for those clean water funds for assisting with that project as well. So that's all I had unless council had questions. And oh yeah, and then 3rd and Main, we were hoping to have a little bit more, but I'm just going to let Justin update you on that.
Really all that we have to update on with the 3rd and Main project is that we did have the structural engineer come in and do their assessment last week, but we're still waiting to hear back with their formal report. So once we get that report in, we'll have a better idea of where we need to go and try to take some more steps to getting there.
And I just wanted to make sure that with the change order on Sanborn today, there's a 2-day ad for the sidewalk.
Correct.
Birch and Sanborn.
That would have been listed on the change order to change the completion date from the 17th to the 19th. Are there any other projects I missed that someone needed an update on? Okay.
Okay, hearing nothing, entertaining motion for the City Council to recess and sit as the Board of Adjustment. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Action to set the date for Board of Adjustment hearing for May 21st, 2018. Danielle Bolje has applied for a conditional use permit to operate a family residential child care center in her home located at 508 East 13th Avenue legally described as Lot 5, Block 1, Shepherd's Addition, City of Mitchell, South Dakota. The property is zoned R2, single-family residential district.
Move to set the date.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Action to set the date for Board of Adjustment hearing, May 21st, 2018. Joseph and Heidi Geppert have applied for a side yard and a corner variance of 18 feet versus 20 feet, and a side yard variance of 2 feet 6 inches versus 3 feet as required for construction of a garage at their home at 700 East 2nd Avenue, legally described as Lot 7, Block 16, FM Green Edition, City of Mitchell, Davidson County, South Dakota, Zone R2, Single Family Residential District.
Move to set the date.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Board of Adjustment review of conditional use permit for John and Tracy Fink, the Corner Retreat, to operate a lodging house in the residential property located at 1400 North Capitol Street, legally described as Lot 7 and west 40 feet of Lot 8, Block 4, Northridge Addition, City of Mitchell, Davidson County, South Dakota, zoned R2, single family residential.
Mayor and Council, you may recall that when you saw this permit before you last time, it's been 6 months, that you had two conditions. One is that it be reviewed within 6 months, and since that's why you're here, and then also that prior to the review that I send letters to the neighbors, and I did do that, and nobody responded back. So the letters went out on the 26th of April. So
these are the old letters that we have in our packet?
No, those are the older ones. I didn't in the second round, I didn't receive anything back. I just put those in there just to kind of refresh your memory of your discussion, and then I put the narrative that was prepared 6 months ago just to kind of refresh your memory. I believe Tracy Fink is here if you've got any more specific questions. Our office has not received any concerns about this since the first time.
So if I could ask, have you had any business? Are we getting no letters because you haven't had any business, so there's nothing to complain about, or?
No, we've had a very good response, and business is busier all the time. Airbnb has been good, and locally, the only advertising that we've done yet is Facebook and word of mouth. And yeah, it's picking up. People are interested.
So, I mean, obviously you're not going to tell me exactly, but is the business mostly a day business where people come in and use the facility? Is it the Airbnb overnight business? Is it 50-50? I'm just trying to get a gauge of the parking situation.
Right. No, it's actually 50-50 would be very fair. There's both. And the parking so far, when we've had like day events for baby shower or whatever, the yellow lines on the curbing, that's been very good because it does really open the intersection so you can see better. And I don't know, none of our neighbors have complained to us either about the parking, so far it seems to be working.
All right.
I've driven by it numerous times, and it's just like driving by any other part of town. I mean, you don't even know anything's going on really, so it's. But you can tell things are going on because I know it's there, and I look and I see cars in the driveway.
I only live a few blocks from there, and I haven't had any complaints or phone calls from anybody in the neighborhoods either. So it must be going pretty well.
Well, we have been some of the people who have used it, and I can't say enough good about it. And you know, the other day I drove into my neighborhood, and there must have been a couple of events going on in 2 different houses along our street, and there were lots of cars. And I thought to myself, you know, what's the difference? Those streets are public roads, and there's no law against parking on the street, and it happens all the time all across town. And so I just can't say enough about what you've got there and what a boon it is for our community. So
thank you
for doing that.
Yep, thank you.
There's no action we need to take?
Just that it was up for a review, and unless you felt that you needed to take anything,
discussion only.
Yeah, unless you felt that there's necessary.
Yeah, if there's some action that would need to be taken, we'll have to bring it back.
Well, this is along the same lines. So now is this a deal where we got to look at it now every 6 months until Jesus returns, or is it a deal where we've looked at it once and now it's good forever?
Yep, the condition was just for that initial 6-month review, so I think it's good standing going forward.
Okay.
Entertaining motion for the Board of Adjustment to adjourn in the City Council to reconvene in regular session.
So move.
All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Action to approve applications for renewal of malt beverage licenses.
We'd have no opposition to approving all of them through public safety.
Move to approve all the renewals.
Second.
All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Action to award bid for East Hanson Water Main number 2018-2. This was tabled from the April 16th meeting.
This project is for the replacement of the water main on East Hanson, the 15 and 1600 blocks, and the 200 to 500 blocks of South Wallace. This is in the area that we had the emergency repair this last winter. So we're planning on going through there and replacing all of the old cast iron pipe in that area, and we'll be putting in new water services and putting in new curb boxes right at the property line, and then we'll be connecting to the existing water services. We will be letting the property owners know when there will be water shut down. We'll be visiting with the contractor prior to doing the work. We recommend awarding to Premier Contracting for $186,428.55. This is below the amount we have budgeted at $223,900.
Terry, I have two questions. First of all, what's a curb box?
Curb box is a shut-off valve behind the property, so if we need to shut someone's water off due to a leak, due to non-payment, the city forces could go in there and shut that curb box
and
off.
Then it doesn't affect the rest of the neighborhood.
Right.
Then refresh me, why did we table this?
We tabled this because we had there were some concerns voiced to us about the contractor of some work that was going on in some other communities that we wanted to do some checking. We did some checking, and we had communities that gave a positive response, and we had communities that showed some negative response. Well, we found that the communities that had a negative response showed where some of the subcontractors that they worked with didn't probably give a fair job, a fair performance of their work, and there were some other issues with payment and stuff like that. So they have made some changes in their company, and in this project we're going to be doing the paving, curb and gutter, and sidewalk work under separate city contracts. So they're going to be really the only sub. So we're going to really pay a close attention to them, and I know other communities are hoping that they could rebuild their workmanship. So we're gonna do the best job we can to keep an eye on them, make sure they're building the project according to our specifications and standards.
How long should it take, Terry, to start to finish?
It's kind of hard. I'm gonna guess around 4 to 6 weeks, but we'll just have to see how it goes. They'll be installing new water main adjacent to their existing. They have the option of putting in temporary water service during that time, or laying beside it, and then they'll just when they do the switch over, they'll let people know approximately the time, and then they'll do switchovers once they get the new water main installed, pressurized and chlorinated.
And we need to point out that part of this project was done as part of the emergency repair this winter. So that area that was already replaced this winter will not be done again. And so when you're looking at the amount under budget, just remember that there's additional costs that we had to do as an emergency replacement earlier this year. So it's not as far under budget as it looks.
And when will this start, Terry?
We'll visit with the contractor once this gets awarded. We'll send out contracts and work out a schedule with the contractor.
And so like this summer?
This summer. This will be done this summer.
And this will fix the problem of the rusty water?
Correct, in that area.
I've been contacted repeatedly by the people that live over there, and I can tell you that they will be blissfully happy to see this project completed.
How long would a home be without water?
We typically figure between 2 and 4 hours.
Oh, that's not bad.
Yeah. That's why a lot of times contractor doesn't always put in a temporary water line, just because if they're just going to be off for, say, 4 hours, usually they're gone in the morning, and by the time they come back, they got water back on. We just have them run the water for a couple hours afterwards, just to get all the air out and any impurities that get into the line.
Well, I'll move to award the contract.
Second.
All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Action to award bid for rock chips, city project number 2018-10.
Mr. Mayor, Council, so the bid opening for the rock chip was held on May 2nd, and one bid was received from Spencer Quarry. We have the bid tabulation for review, and staff recommends to award.
Refresh me, I think the one bid's pretty typical, isn't it?
Yes, sir.
Because of proximity and trucking costs.
Yes, sir.
I think it's interesting to note that in the past 8 years, I guess it's been now, the price has not increased even by $1. So that's pretty impressive. I think this. Am I wrong? Yeah, so $1. Oh, had not increased by more than $1. Sorry. It hasn't been $1 yet. Precision in speech. Move to approve Spencer Quarry for the rock chips project.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Action to award bid for petroleum products, city project number 2018-13, items number 1 and item number 2.
Mr. Mayor, Council, this is for the chip seal as well. The bid opening was on April 30th. One bid was received from Jebro, and staff recommends to award.
Can you explain the item descriptions 1 and 2, and I guess can you explain this? It looks like Jebro did item number 1 and Brock did number 2, and I guess I'm wondering if you can help me out with that.
Right. So typically that's what we've had done in the past too. Each contractor has bid separately, and so the emulsification is for the rock chip seal product and for the procedure, and the separate one is for actually crack seal. So 2 separate products and 2 separate procedures, and both contractors each bid separately.
But we're only accepting the crack sealer portion?
No, the next item I think was for, the one was for petroleum and the next item was for crack seal.
Because they're separate bid items, you'll have to take action on them.
I see, we're just doing the same thing. Thanks. Move to approve Brock White for the crack sealer that we're waiting for.
If you start with Jebro first.
Oh, Jebro. Okay. Move to approve Jebro for the emulsion.
Second.
All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Next is a motion for Brock White on the second item number 2.
Second.
All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Action to approve agreement number A2018-16, Airport Aerial Applicators Agreement.
This is an agreement that previously had been going through the airport board, but with the changes that we had to make to that last year, we can't send them through that channel anymore. The intention would be to now have the city council approve just this standard form, and then the public works director will approve each of them administratively and not have to bring each individual contract back through the council.
Move to approve.
Second.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Action to approve agreement number A2018-17, Mitchell Regional Ambulance Medical Director.
Our current medical director, Dr. Martin Christensen, has turned in his resignation effective July 1st, so we'll need a new medical director. We're fortunate enough to obtain Dr. Hillary Rockwell. She's the ER physician here at Queen of Peace in Mitchell. She's going to be a great addition. She's already been part of our crews, kind of on the side. She's provided a lot of training for us, and she's agreed to take on this position for us.
Paul, I probably should know, but what
Yes.
do these people do?
Well, they basically oversee the ambulance service. They overlook the SOPs, the standard operating procedures and protocols for the ambulance service. They update those as needed. They update our hazardous materials SOPs as well. They have to sign off on all our paramedics on all their skills, intubations, IVs, surgical airways, those kind of things. They basically keep us out of trouble, so to speak.
Do they do any training or coordinating of training?
Oh, absolutely. Yep. As a matter of fact, we have a training coming up May 15th on 3 of our we kind of call them our hardcore drugs, and they're very touchy, if you will. And so we try to refresh on that about every 6 months, just so everybody's up to speed on it. And she's going to be part of that, as well as Dr. Christensen.
Action to approve. Second the resolution.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Action on resolution R2018-17, vacating a portion of East 6th Avenue.
This resolution would vacate a portion of East 6th Avenue. Well, we've been
concise and to the point, huh?
We've been talking about it for a couple months, so I don't think that this should be news to anybody. But this is in relation to 6th Avenue Plaza. So.
Second.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Action on resolution R2018-20, approving a corrective easement.
So this is an issue that's been kicking around since I first came on board here. We have an interesting situation where the original easement, the way it was drafted, it referred to this water pipeline being both west and east of the railroad right-of-way. The pipeline's been there. It actually is all east of the railroad right-of-way. So we're just trying to clean up the ambiguity in the original language. So we're getting rid of the old one and putting a new one in place that actually shows without any ambiguity where it's supposed to be.
Was the original language put in that way just in case they altered the tracks?
I don't think it was intentional.
And how did you find it? I mean, what part of our BY water work?
I actually think it was something that Tim clued me into when I first started here, and you know, it's kind of been brought up and forgotten a couple of times since I started, and having to deal with multiple different parties to try to get this thing approved. So I think we're finally to the point where we're the last ones we need that need to authorize it.
Move approval of resolution 2018-20. Second.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. First reading on ordinance number 2018-05, creating a business improvement district number 3.
I don't think I've got much new to say on this. We've kind of discussed bits and pieces of it over the last couple of months. Just procedurally, so everyone is aware, this would be the first reading on the ordinance to formally create the bid. Before we set the boundaries, we set notice of a hearing. Today is that hearing, and we're holding the first reading at the same time. So if there's any public commentary for or against, we could sure hear that at this time. Or if the council has any specific questions, we can try to get those answered.
Is this a chicken and the egg kind of thing? I mean, obviously, it's a self-created thing, and they need a majority. So do you wait for that before you do this, or do you do this before they do that?
I think in this case, they tried to go out and get a majority approval before, and I'm speaking for Mitchell Main Street here, but I think they went out and got a majority approval before they pitched it to us to actually proceed with it.
And they do have an approval or majority?
The last time we heard, there was a majority approval. I had heard some rumors that there was a opposition petition being circulated, but I've never seen anything on that or heard numbers on those that oppose.
My name's Larry Jersa. I live at 123 North Main. As a matter of fact, this month I've been living in the building for 21 years. I'm all for improving downtown. I tried to do that when I came to town 26 years ago. My biggest objection, I guess, to the bid district is I don't think the way the values of the property or the taxes assessed is fair and equitable. Just to illustrate where I'm coming from there, 27 years ago I bought my building for $1. At that time the property was assessed for a value of $12,500 and the building was assessed at a value of $7,500. A few years ago when the county assessor came back through Main Street and reassessed the building, my building is now assessed for $100,000. So what is really the value of the building? Is it $12,500 or $7,500? Is it $1? Is it $100,000? The gentleman that bought it before me paid $18,500 for it. So I feel that this whole assessment thing for property values is totally subjective. There isn't another building like mine probably in the whole world. And someone comes along and says, well, I think it's worth this. So my thought was, I would be okay with this, I guess, but there's 4,200 lineal feet of property on Main Street from Railroad to 7th Avenue. So if each foot was assessed $1, that, or $10, I mean, you'd have $42,000 coming in. I would be more comfortable with assessing property at that value because it's more equitable. It's based on a foot. You know, if you have a 25-foot lot, it's $250. If you have a 50-foot lot, it's $500. Because I feel like the empty lots are the ones that are the real problems. Like where the old State Theater was, that's just a big dust bowl, gravel all over the sidewalks and mud and dust. And if anything needs to be done, that's the kind of property that would improve downtown. And I've got a property across the street from me that's a dust bowl, you know. I mean, it just fills my building up with dust where it used to be weeds and grass, but that all got dug up and now it's dirt again. And those are the things that just, I mean, I just think that just is kind of a sin for downtown to have a dirt lot, you know, right in the middle of a city. They probably wouldn't have to sweep the streets so often if some of those things were paved. But the other thing is there are so many other improvements that could be made down there, and just simple things. And just to give you an example, I don't know, maybe 10 years ago, 12 years ago, remember the public restroom that used to be across the street behind Dr. Lucky's now? That got torn down. The lot still is gravel. There used to be a phone booth there. the pole is still standing up. There's still a little piece of sidewalk there it's never been cleaned up. And then when the fire burnt the building down where the new patio is at Dr. Lucky's, the street light bases got all banged up and they're all chipped, and sidewalks, my sidewalk got damaged when they did the alley, and it's just, you look around, there's so many things that need to be fixed that don't have anything to do with buildings, don't have anything to do with taxes. And those are the things, to me, as a detail person, when I look at detail stuff, those are the things that really would help downtown. It doesn't have anything to do with buildings, you know. But that's just part of me just living down there so long and seeing this stuff every day. And I just feel like I'm penalized. I took a piece of junk building I bought for $1, increased the value of it apparently from $7,500 to $100,000. So I'm okay with paying taxes for property improvement, but now I feel like I'm paying a tax for not doing something. You know, I paid a tax for doing something, now I'm paying a tax for not doing something. The problem with these big buildings is, and mine's right along with some of the ones we got trouble with, you know, on the intersection of 3rd, they're so big, they take millions of dollars to fix. $5,000, $10,000, $40,000, $50,000 isn't going to do diddly squat for these buildings. It really isn't. The single-story buildings or the two-story buildings, you know, if they want to replace some storefront glass or fix the front up or whatever, yeah, it might work for that. But the real problem buildings down there, you know, and plus they're so expensive to tear down. I mean, to tear down the building on 3rd Street probably cost $300,000. Well, that building obviously isn't worth $1 anymore, you know. But these are the things that they're just hard to overcome, and I don't think you are going to overcome it. And I certainly don't think taxing people that are already struggling with some fun. I mean, I have X amount of dollars a year to do maintenance on my building. If I throw that into the bid district, I'm not sure exactly where it's all going to go. I talked to Jeff and Jen about this before, and there's going to be various improvements, and yeah, you can get grant money to do a building, but $5,000 isn't going to do me any good. You know, it really isn't. I've tried to borrow money 26 years ago to all the local banks where I had a business plan, I had a partner, and they said, well, it's kind of a good idea, but we can't loan you anything because it's the building store. We don't believe in it, you know. So I've been that whole route as a developer. It's hard to borrow big money to fix these buildings, and they just eventually fall down. I mean, that's like the thing that's happened on 3rd. But anyway, I just feel like it's just an extra tax that personally I don't need. You know, and I'm the unusual guy here, you know. I was born and raised in that block. I spent my first days on earth on that block at 104 North Raleigh. And I'm back there, and I'm probably the only guy in the world that went all the way around and came right back to the same block. But I like Mitchell, you know. And that's why I'm here. And I try to do the best I can, but, you know, back when I first came to town, we had these ideas to improve Main Street. The chamber was going to chip in $25. If the business would chip in $25 to pay me as an architect $50 to draw up something to fix their building, I got 0 people to respond to that. They didn't even want to put $50 or $25 into looking at fixing their building. That's what we're kind of dealing with here. And to me, now, based on the value of my building, I'm paying almost $500, $450, $500 a year taxes extra. I could take that $500 and help fix the bricks that the lightning hit last year and blew the bricks off my building, which still haven't been fixed. But that's me personally. So I just, it's a tough thing, you know. And I respect Jeff and Jen for, and I've known Jeff all his life. Matter of fact, his parents were the first ones that gave me my first job at the Roxy Theater. So there's a lot of memories, and that's why I'm on Main Street, and I support it. But for me personally, this bid thing doesn't work for me at all. So I just wanted to let you know where I stand.
Justin, the idea of assessing linear foot, is that even allowed under state law? Or?
I believe so. You know, the way that Mitchell Main Street discussed this all with the property owners was based off of the calculation that has been presented in the ordinance. So I don't know if the numbers of people that approve or oppose would change if you're changing the assessment calculation. I think Larry's got a point, but I think that it depends on how you look at what or how you're trying to determine what is equitable. Doing it based off of linear foot could be a better indicator than valuation, but is that linear foot just on Main Street, or does that include the side streets as well? You know, there's questions with that as well, and you know, linear foot doesn't really account for the number of stories in a building or anything like that either. So which one is more equitable? It's hard to say, but I think they're both fair and equitable ways to do this calculation.
I know that I sit on the Mitchell Main Street. I'm the liaison from the council. And I know that as they were discussing this, that there were many options considered about how to assess this. And really the goal was to find the most equitable, the most fair way to do that. And certainly by linear foot, that was one of the options that we did look at. I say we, I don't have a vote, they, but I was in on the conversations, I heard it. So they did look at that option, and like Justin said, there's just so many things that come into play that differentiate, you know, the value of those linear feet are so different. So I know that that was one of the things that they did consider. The other thing I wanted to say is that I think it's important to remember, Larry, that this is not, I mean, the bid certainly is an important part of the big equation, but it certainly isn't the end all. You know, that the goal is to show that the businesses on Mitchell Main Street have themselves invested in the improvements, so that the city then is able to go forth and will invest in some of those other things that need to be done to make improvements. This is really a way for the businesses to say, we're going to do our best to make some improvements to our building fronts. We're going to do our best to add some little extra features, and the city in return is going to do some of the bigger projects that need to be done on Mitchell's Main Street. So, you know, I understand what you're saying about $5,000 isn't a huge amount, and that grant in and of itself, the bid board hasn't determined how much of that money that has been raised will be going to grants and how much will be given to adding other features. But really, ultimately, the fact that the city then will come along and will invest in the features of the streetscape and improve those utilities and improve the sidewalks and whatnot, really that's where we're going to meet, and the big picture is that we'll improve it as a whole and improve it all together. So I guess that's my 2 cents worth, but I do want you to know that the consideration was made about doing it by linear foot. And I don't know if Jeff wants to address that, or Jen, or actually Dave Brooks. He was kind of headed this up, so if they want to discuss that, but it was certainly a consideration.
Yeah, Jeff Logan, president of Main Street Beyond, and Larry's right. We both grew up on those blocks. I grew up kitty corner from him, lived the first 27 years of my life in that building. So we know the neighborhood. That was a playground. And times have changed. As far as the front foot, we did look at that, and that was one of our first proposals. What we found a couple of things. We found local resistance, and we found that no one else was doing it because of the same objections. And I think the most of the reasons have been spelled out. But you have a 3-story building like yours that has income from those upper floors. Well, the guy with a 1-story building says, well, that's not fair. I'm getting charged the same 25 for the same 25 foot of frontage as this other guy who has extra income from the additional floors. And then you've got the corner buildings. Do you go around the corner and do that? Because some of them have entrances to side rentals and so forth. So that became so inequitable itself that we finally came up with just what every other city came up with. The most equitable seemed to be in the assessment. I think we do have a problem in Mitchell on the assessment, and Larry, you're a great example. And in going around canvassing people on this, there's a lot of stories in Mitchell where some of our assessments, and so it just ask you when you sit as a Board of Adjustment, that the county assessor, instead of going by potential revenue or your actual revenue, charging, if you charged yourself rent, that's your potential income for the apartment and for the office downstairs. Well, that income for the whole year is not going to amount to an income-based appraisal that she has on that building. It's too high. We have a lot of our appraisals downtown are too high by any measure of the reality of what they're selling for and the income potential. And I experienced that. I think the assessor sometimes is assuming 100% occupancy and not taking into account repairs, and instead of looking at net revenue, they're just looking at unrealistic figures. I think a lot of your argument is with the assessor, and I think a lot of us need to go through the procedure of appealing it there and all the steps with the combined Board of Adjustment, and perhaps go to court if we have to, because I agree. And I think that's a lot of the opposition in town, is we have some unfair assessments that are unrealistic. Now, I know they were frozen at one level too long, they were brought up in one step, and all those arguments, but yet when you look at current market value or income potential, we're overassessed, and that's where a lot of our opposition is coming from. I feel the pain. I'm one of the 3 highest tax buildings downtown in the theater, so I mean, I know the taxes are high. Now that one I can't argue because that's new construction. So, but on the older buildings, I've gone to bat and go through the procedures, and I think we all have to. So, the other reasons I think we've pretty much, I hope, answered. If not to your satisfaction, at least we've given you an answer. And I'll answer any other questions as we go along. But
so Jeff, you have a majority?
Yes, we do have a majority, and counting each building or property has a vote, and I think we're right now at 40 yeses, 27 noes, 5 undecideds by our last count. Now, and we'll see if votes have flipped, but when we talked with people, we met. This has been in the works for over 5 years, and 3 Main Street directors. I mean, it's taken a long time to research this thing and go through it. We have met and taken input from all the building owners. We've met personally. We've not had big mass meetings because, very frankly, that doesn't work downtown. People have commitments at 5 o'clock. They got to get back to the kids. They got to get home. They got to drop kids off before work. They can't meet at noon because there's no one to watch the store. So we did not do a lot of big mass meetings. What we did was try to do face-to-face, one-on-one, and tried to hit everyone. And that's how we met with people and explained it. And at that point, they understood. They were happy and signed our petitions, which we've turned in, and Jen has those. So,
would you say there was 40 yeses, and how many noes was there?
I think 27. 27, yes. 5 undecided.
I didn't realize there's that many down there.
Well, and that are the voting properties on Main Street, Railroad to 7th. So
just on Main Street.
Just on Main Street. At one time we had 2 zones in it, A and B. We found a lot of opposition from B. They said, I don't want to pay for improvements going to someone else's building. I don't get it in front of mine. Okay, I understand it. Maybe we can take a long-term view, but that's a tough sell at the moment. Let's get this done. Then we can look at Zone B later and maybe find something directly to help them. So this plan has changed a lot and evolved over the years because of the input of the building owners. So,
Jeff, we've obviously, Mitchell Main Street Beyond and us have been conversing over, like you said, 4 or 5 years on this. And maybe you can explain to the public approximately the amount that would be raised and then what you intend to use the money for.
Yes. What we're valuing is it's basically 1/2% of the valuation. And part of going with valuation, we have some control over that by the ability to appeal it. So $5 per thousand evaluation. There is a minimum payment of $120. There's a maximum of $3,000, and no one in the district in Zone 1 or Zone A actually even hits that $3,000 max. So the a building that's assessed at $75,000 would pay roughly $375 a year. That's what it is, and a little over $1 a day. The bid is projected to raise approximately $44,000 a year. By statute that we have to operate under, and we had to change the more we delved into state law, and Justin corrected our course at times. What we can do is the mayor had to appoint a bid board, which he did. The bid board is made up of property owners in the district, and they decide what to do with the money. Because we don't have a bid yet, the bid board only met to say, okay, we're here, we're a bid. We didn't make any decisions because there's nothing to work with. So that board will then decide what percentage will go to the amenities and the improvements over and above what the city wants to make it a better, more attractive area. And what percentage of the funds will go into a grant fund that the building owners can apply for. And Larry's right. You know, right now we have the low or no interest loan fund, and that isn't going to do anything. But I think the key to doing all these things is that you combine these. And I think the Whittier School project is a good example. You use no interest loan. You use a Deadwood grant. Use our new grant from the bid if we get it. You use the historic tax credits and the other thing you can use. You put all that together, and then you start working it to where, and if you have to sell tax credits, whatever you do, you can get the money to do it. The nice thing, and I think Larry and I have seen over the years, that 20 years ago downtown was kind of looked at, the malls are doing, you know, they're the future and downtowns are dead. And we now find that downtowns are the hip, chic place to live. The young people want loft apartments. And part of what drove this also on the bid is that every study we've done, be it the marketing study and all the studies we've done in the future of Mitchell, is people felt they wanted Main Street to look better. And we go to Brookings, Aberdeen, Pier, all these other towns, Spearfish, and say, why can't we be like them? Well, they've done exactly this step. That was one of the steps they took, and one of the first. You're exactly right, chicken or the egg. And so we can't do it. Steve Clark took the upper floor. Hardly anyone's aware of his building where Julie Koth had her kind of shipping of Bad Girls of the Black Hills, and put in a beautiful loft apartment. That office space up there hadn't been used since the 1920s. And so it was a total rehab of it, and he now has income coming out of it. So this can work. The times are different. Downtown is now hip and chic, and we need to capitalize on this. So that's part of the driving force. And I think the banks, hopefully, and I was nudging Dave, why didn't you make a loan? You know, so I don't know what it is. I mean, I think the times are changing.
Jeff, of the 72 owners that you've identified, how many are absentee? They're out of state, they're in Sioux Falls or someplace else?
Yeah, there's maybe a quarter of them to a third that are out of town. And again, how do you count? Some of those absentee owners own quite a few buildings. And we also have some local ones who just, their business plan is not to put a great deal of money into those buildings, and just kind of, unfortunately, you know, if you take one of those seminars, Get Rich Quick in Real Estate, they tell you take the depreciation, don't put anything back in. We have too much of that mentality. A lot of the opposition is coming from out-of-town owners who do not have a vested interest in Mitchell or live here. But yet, you know, everyone looks at Aberdeen and says, geez, that looks great. Are you going to Iowa and Minnesota and these other towns and see these great downtowns? And it is. It's the core and the personality of the town. And if we want to attract, you know, it's like the Chamber and Industrial Development no longer says Mitchell has jobs. Everybody has jobs. We're fighting for workers. So if you're a young person with skills, you want to come to Mitchell or Brookings or Aberdeen or Yankton, and you start looking at quality of life issues, and Main Street comes up in every survey that they want it better, and that attracts people. So that's a lot of the impetus for doing this. It's for downtown, but it's for the growth of Mitchell and to fill these job openings. You know, we've got, over 700 job openings in Mitchell. Can't get people to fill them. Well, there's one way we can get people to move here. So, any other questions? Otherwise, I'll be available for other objections that are brought up, and we'll try to answer why we did what we did and how we're doing it.
Thank you, Jeff. Is there someone else from the audience who'd like to address the council?
Yes, Mayor and Commission, I'll be giving the other side of Mr. Logan's. And I appreciate what you said, and I feel the same way about the assessments. I know I've got a lot better upper body strength from arm wrestling.
Sir, can you give your name first?
My name is Ken Krause. I run the Ameriprise Financial franchise. I bought the old Legion building about 7 years ago. I was trying to say I think I've got a lot more upper body strength from arm wrestling with Kathy Getch over the assessments over the last few years, because every time we made an improvement, she knew within $1,000 of what we spent. I mean, she was very accurate there. That doesn't mean it improved the value by that much, similar to what Mr. Durza said. But I'm opposed to the bid, and I actually have the signatures from 40 pieces of property, the owners of 40 pieces of property that are also opposed to the bid at this point in time. I wanted to say that none of the people that are opposed, as I was talking to them, have said they are opposed to the city improving things. They're opposed to Main Street being better. They are opposed to this particular project, the way it was presented, or sadly the way it wasn't presented. No one talked to me as a property owner about this particular proposal until tonight as I walked in the door. I got the letter from the City Commission. I read about it in the paper, but that was it. That was my contact. So if I can present that, and I didn't do anything formal. I didn't visit with an attorney. I read the letter that we got from you, and it said in the letter that if the majority of the property holders oppose the bid, proceedings would cease. That doesn't mean that the concept of moving forward should cease, but 40 of the properties, the owners of 40 of the properties, have signed the letter that I put together that says, to the City of Mitchell, South Dakota, we, the undersigned, are property owners in the proposed Business Improvement District bid number 3. We protest this bid and ask that the City of Mitchell terminate these proceedings. Thank you for your attention. So I've got some letters attached, some that we received by fax, some personally. And I wanted to add a little bit of personal information. I'm one of the people that don't live here. I've been coming down here 20 years to run my business. I also have, I live in Aberdeen, so I do have some of it in insight there. I own property in downtown Aberdeen where I conduct my business. I'm not convinced that that was, it looks pretty. I'm not convinced that it was a big plus for the downtown of Aberdeen. We've been fortunate enough up there to have 4 major employers located in downtown Aberdeen. We've got the federal building, we've got the corporate headquarters for Dakota Bank, we've got the student loan agencies, and Wells Fargo Financial. The last 2 are shrinking, are going to be gone, but the federal government doesn't ever shrink, and Dakota Bank doesn't seem to ever shrink. But at 5 o'clock, when the doors close, the very lovely downtown Aberdeen does not keep the people there. They're in their cars going down the street, getting on Highway 12 and going east or west. They're going someplace else. It's maybe done some things. I'm not sure it's done what everyone had hoped it would. And some of the anecdotal evidence, people like to talk about the $30,000 clock. Please don't pay $30,000 for a clock if you're going to do something. It's a pretty clock, though. So can I present this to somebody? Okay.
For those 40 letters of opposition that you got, were there reasons stated as to why they were opposed, other than what would have already been stated?
Not at all. And if they're not 40 letters, it's one letter. And I asked, what I did is I took the census that you kindly provided along with the letter that said these are the property owners. And I'm not the only one, but I'm the one standing here, contacted the owners and said, are you opposed or not opposed? And close to half said, yes, we are in favor of it. We think it's great. We want to do this. A little over half of the, and I went by pieces of property. So some obviously I have 2 signatures on there. I think Slate Creek has 7. And I didn't know what you meant by majority. I looked at the number of properties, and I got what was a number 40 number of properties.
Rather than letters, I said that out of line, I guess, but other than letters, when they were signing those, I mean, did they give reasons why they were opposed, other than what we've already heard?
Some people thought that personally mine will go up by $860 a year. I talked to my banker about that. I said, what does that do to the value of my building? He said, simple, we use a 10% capitalization rate, move the decimal point. If this passes, as far from the bank standpoint, the value of your property just dropped by $8,600. Okay, that's not a good feeling. Most of the people were opposed because they didn't feel part of the process. They didn't feel that and maybe 2 years ago they were, and I haven't been working on this for 2 years. I've been talking to people for about a month. So some businesses have closed, but most of the reasons were they felt not a part of it. And one thing I've learned in business is you better get the person who's writing the check involved in any decisions that are made. And I don't know if that was done well enough, and maybe it can be. Maybe it can be tweaked. Maybe we can have some conversations. Maybe we can start some dialogue. Because while 40 signatures are on that letter, no one said, I think this is good the way it is. I don't want to spend a nickel on it. Most everybody expressed the concern that we do improve things, that we do make things better. But they want to be part of that process, part of that conversation, and a lot of them didn't feel that way. Obviously, the people that are in favor of it do. So I think there's more work that needs to be done. But if those signatures are acceptable to you, I think we're done talking about this one. I'm happy to answer any questions someone would have.
Justin, what's the law? Do you get to double vote if you have two properties, or
just here's what I'm going to ask at this point is, this is a lot to go over here immediately, so I'd ask if the council's going to take any action, just table this for 2 weeks. We can review these and make sure that we've got an accurate count, because I don't think I can do that here within the next 5 minutes.
And I'll admit that we're relatively unorganized in the work that we did. We don't have maybe what you'd need to see from a legal standpoint.
Well, I'll move to table, but I would like in 2 weeks an answer to that question, if in fact you can double vote. So,
excuse me, I'd like to ask some questions.
Absolutely.
You guys will need to get up, be up by the
Okay.
microphones.
Get
So we
by the
can
mics.
hear.
Okay. And first, I do want to compliment you on the remodeling you did on your building.
Thank you.
And I believe.
And we went from 45,000 to 172,000, so you're welcome.
Yeah, and you have gone through the steps.
Yeah.
And I think you used one of the Mitchell Main Street Beyond loans to do part of that.
I did.
10,000.
Yes.
And I guess on the notification, I'd say, have you joined Mitchell Main Street and Beyond?
I have not.
Chamber of Commerce.
I am a member.
You are a member of the Chamber of Commerce. Okay. We sent out, I know, at least a notice in September. We have talked with people over the time. We had you down as a no response from previously, and I believe some of that was from your secretary that just said, talk to him, he's against it, and we had you down as a no.
She
So at
told
that
me
point,
no one had contacted our office, so I apologize if someone had.
We had it down. The other thing in that, and we had a lot of calls from people who were approached by you or Mr. Heisinger, who were taking the deals around. Did you talk about diagonal parking?
Yes.
And tell me about that.
I really don't have much information. One of the questions was, does this involve diagonal parking? One of the drawings I'd seen did. And so yeah, I believe it does, but I don't know. And that, quite frankly, is the problem that I have and what a lot of people have, is that we don't know what the proposal is.
Our committee meetings have been open. We've invited people to join MMS&B. We've invited them to come to the committee meetings. The diagonal parking was taken out 1 to 2 years ago because we found that as a split issue, about half and half. Some merchants want it, some don't. We also found that the city just felt with 55-foot wide streets, we don't have wide enough streets if we wanted to do it, even on one side. So diagonal parking is not part of it. And I think some of those petitions may have been signed by people who have told me that they signed because they're opposed to diagonal parking. That was one of the main reasons. So I would question that. Again, had you called us, had you called Jen at her office, called me at my office, any of us, we could have told you, or the Chamber of Commerce office got the up-to-date plan. Diagonal parking came out of it. So I would question the validity of some of those signatures if they were gathered under false pretenses. I would also quibble with your CPA, and I bought and sold a lot of buildings in a lot of towns in South Dakota, and I bought buildings that had bids and assessments attached to them. Did not lower the value of the building, and if you pay less for a building because there's a extra assessment on it, then that's poor negotiating, because that's just part of it. These assessments, if you're in a mall, you're going to pay more than the bid amount in CAM fees. Your common area maintenance, which goes to sweep the mall, do the parking lot, maintain the common areas, which is essentially what downtown is. Our streets, our sidewalks, a lot of the things Larry talked about. This is what we're improving, and this is no more, probably less than you'd pay in CAM fees, is what this amounts to. So at your assessment, I believe you'd be paying
$860.
$860 a year on this. Divide that out, that's like $66 a month. That's less than you'd pay in CAM fees. I mean, you're a financial advisor. You can't afford $66 a month.
I'm not saying
to improve the neighborhood in the area.
I'm not saying I can't afford it. I'm saying I'm not sure it's an improvement. And what I'm saying is, yes, I could have contacted you. You're asking me to write a check. You should be contacting me. And that didn't.
And we had done that. It's been an open procedure. We've asked people to join. We've asked people to come to meetings. We've tried to keep everyone informed. Working with out-of-town owners is difficult. And as I said, meetings are difficult. So to call a meeting at 5 o'clock or at 8 a.m. or 7:30 a.m., we can't ever get anyone there, noon, anytime. So that's why we tried to do face-to-face. Once we had a yes, we may have said, okay, they're a yes, and then maybe they forgot, maybe they thought we had changed the plan, and that may be our fault for not keeping everyone up to date on how this plan was evolved because of their input. So,
Mr. Mayor, if I may interject here quick. Obviously, there needs to be, sounds like more discussion. The one thing I do know as a council sitting here for several years, that when we have someone that comes to the city and asks for us to support a project, anytime that there's a partnership or money that you can share, and it doesn't need to be 50-50. I mean, we've done as low as 5% or 1%, whatever the case may be. But we like to see a commitment. And you guys all have great arguments, but we do know that we've supported Main Street for years as we have helped with the director and basically paid for that, and know that we have gotten returns as a result of it. And it is looking nicer, it is. And we've got plans. We've got the ability to enhance it. But here's, in the end, if we don't have 51%, then it doesn't matter. You know, you guys can talk and discuss, and we can talk and discuss. But in all reality, it's been 5 years. I've got to at least see the amount of people in the audience that are here tonight and what they have gone through to get up to this point. And if we approve it on first reading tonight, then at that point, it gives you guys an opportunity to have Justin put it together. And we've got the specific names here. It's either going to be a thumbs up or a thumbs down, and we'll know exactly where we're at as far as 51%. So you can continue the discussion, but I think we just need to, as a council, decide, do we want to move forward and give you an opportunity, and then you guys determine if you'd want it or not. So I'm going to make a motion to place it on first reading.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
If I can, Mayor,
Go ahead.
I hate to jump in here, but tonight was the night set for the hearing, so I'd hate for us to have a vote and not have heard everybody who came to speak on the issue.
I'm through unless someone had other questions for me.
Well, you know, if we're not going to take action tonight, then I would like to.
Well, it says first reading.
This first reading.
Right.
What were you saying? Let everybody
speak.
Right, just let everybody else who's here.
Right.
Is there some? Yeah, here we got someone else coming up
The
here.
point that I'm simply trying to make is, if there's a majority against, then there's no reason to go through the kerfuffle. And so.
I don't think we know for sure one way or the other.
Well,
because-
we don't, because he has not, Justin
Right.
has not verified the signatures. So my question is, we're not going to do anything tonight anyway, because we can't. Because the signatures have to be validated. And so why make these people go through it all tonight and then go through it all again? Because that's exactly what's going to happen. Now, if they want to go through it twice, that's fine. But at the end, after they've said their spiel, we're still not going to do anything because we can't.
Right. I guess the only comment to that, Mel, is that we set this tonight's meeting as the hearing on this issue.
Okay.
Is there any, is there any recourse if signatures were gathered under false pretenses?
I guess it depends on what you mean by recourse. My preferred course of action would just be, I appreciate Jeff's wanting to move this forward, but being that we don't know whether the signatures are there or not, or, you know, until we confirm that, I don't think we should take any kind of step forward on it. So I would just appreciate it, once we hear everybody, if we could just table this issue.
But the other thing is, though, we don't know how it was presented. Okay, they're both claiming they've got majority.
Right.
And in all reality, if we have to take the initiative to send the ballots out and collect it ourselves, then, and that's what I think we probably should do, because we don't know how the presentation was made. We don't know what they were actually signing up for either side.
And you'll probably have people who have signed both.
I think that's probably what we're going to have to do at this point, is independently verify everybody's position on it.
But given go ahead.
And I'm just saying, because we're going to have to go through that step, I would prefer if we did not take any action on it, did not approve the first reading at this time.
But if we approve the first reading, it doesn't have to come back in 2 weeks.
Right, not necessarily, but I'm just hesitant to take any action on it when there's a question about whether there's majority support.
I have a quick question too. City-owned property, we got quite a few on Main Street. Do they get a vote on that? Like
No,
the
those
city properties?
are exempt from the special assessment. There's a number of other exempt properties too.
I'm going to echo a little bit what Jeff has, and with respect, Justin, I've been sitting here for 12 years, and I can't tell you, I don't think I've ever really turned down a first reading. We've always usually gave it the benefit of the doubt, as in the first reading, then 2 weeks for the public to even speak on more on behalf, or call your local councilman or whatever it may be. First reading does not say anything about we are in support of this to move forward and get this bid done. It gives the fact of that another 2 weeks of debate. And I think, once again, the answer is in the names. I mean, once again, they come back, and if it's 50.1% approval, it goes forward. If it's 50.1% against, it's dead. First reading says absolutely nothing as far as I'm concerned. It's besides, this process has been in work for, like Jeff said a little bit ago, 5 years. 5 years, and it took the folks on the Main Street and Beyond to believably get the signatures that they have, and then the other gentleman, and maybe in the last 2 weeks, get enough signatures to say no. Once again, I'm not saying yes or no where we're at, but I'm saying first reading is not going to hurt the council or the city of Mitchell to approve that, and in 2 weeks we'll have the true answers in the numbers.
And I don't think we can do it in 2 weeks, but I don't think we have to bring it back in all reality. But I'm going to keep my motion out there for first reading, just to get this thing moving and give Justin an opportunity to put it in writing and actually get it out to all of the individuals that were listed on here. Give them an opportunity to ponder on it, ask questions, do whatever, and then give a response one way or the other. And if you do not respond, we have to take that as a no. Right, Justin?
Yeah, I guess that'd be the safer option. Just treat abstentions as a no, an affirmative yes.
Yeah.
But, you know, Marty, the reason that I view this situation differently is when we're talking about other ordinances, we don't have a state law that says if you have over 50% opposed, the proceedings must terminate. You know, we have that in this specific instance because that's part of the bid laws. It says if you're in or if there's documentation that shows that there's a majority in opposition, the proceedings must terminate. So that's why I'm asking not to take any action on the first reading and just table this until we can get a verified count of who's for and who's against.
You're up, man.
Brenda Weiser. I have the Scissor Hut Salon on 5th Street.
Can you talk closer into the microphone? We can't hear you.
I don't like doing public speaking, and I've had my business for about the last 30 years, and not once in the last 5 years has anyone come and talked to me about this Mitchell Main Street and Beyond or the bid project. I didn't know anything about it until I got my letter in the mail in September, and I called the end of October, and we pay some of the highest taxes in the whole state of South Dakota. And I guess I am definitely against paying more taxes. Any updating I've done to my building, I've paid for it myself. Any flower planters or flowers, I've done them myself. And so I don't feel I should have to help pay for beautifying downtown. You know, if business owners want flower planters or benches or whatever, then they should pay for them themselves just like I have. So, that's about all I have to say. No one's contacted me or talked to me or visited with me about it.
I missed, what's your business and where?
I have a Scissor Hut Salon off of 5th Street.
And I'm her husband. Nobody's ever come and knocked on the door, said anything about this and whatever. And my thought on the situation is I'm all for beautification downtown Mitchell, but everybody shares downtown. It's my thought. Everybody, the whole community goes downtown, and it's for everybody. And my thought is why can't we do a fundraiser? Why tax the retail when the retail's already struggling? We know that. We've seen businesses closing all the way through town. You know, they're struggling.
There's 3 in the process of closing right now, right on Main Street.
And, you know, I mean, as far as look at 3rd Street, there's a building down. I had tourists ask me the other day if there was an explosion in the building. And you know, what do you say? It's been like that for a while. And you know, and if somebody would have bet me $100 the other day about having tires on Main Street in a business, I would have said they were full of it. I mean, that's, to me, is not part of the beautification process on Main. I understand that would be great out in the country setting and whatever, but tires on Main Street, it just goes against everything you guys are working for. That's all I'm going to say.
If I can answer one thing on that, at 114 West 5th, I believe, yeah, you're not in Zone A. That's why you weren't contacted. You would not be paying this assessment.
Yes, she said that we were going to be.
Yeah,
yes.
she did. She came by and said we're included in it.
Whenever I called down there, yes.
In Zone 2, and Zone 2 was kicked out.
So, but I mean,
Zone 2 was eliminated from it, so
yeah,
it makes no difference.
But it doesn't. We're still part of the community, and we still have a say in the matter as far as that's concerned.
Oh, yeah.
So, but yeah.
Is there anybody else in the audience that wants to come forward and speak? Anyone?
I'll second putting this on first reading.
Look, I understand what you're doing, but you can't. You just can't.
We don't know who signed it. These people that are up here that are not even in the bid probably signed the petition. And so we need to find out who, and I understand what you're saying, Mel, but in all reality is I want to get it on first reading and then let us do the legal work behind it and then let them do their, if they want to go around and visit with the individuals, we've got the list right here and we can give them a timetable, and if the 51% does not come back, this is done. But we might as well get, and an opportunity for people to vote on it, and then at that point in time, we know if we should move forward or not. And that's, I know you disagree, Mel, but I'm going to keep my first out there.
If we put it on first reading, and it in fact turns out that there's a majority opposed, we have violated state law.
That's exactly the concern that I was trying to voice.
But we don't know that either.
But we know a petition has been presented.
Yeah.
It has been represented to have 40 signatures. And, you know, the double property, okay, I don't know what that is. But we have two petitions. One has been represented to have 40 signatures for. One has been represented to have 40 signatures against. We don't know the validity, and I'm not casting aspersions on anybody, but we don't know the validity of either of those numbers. And so if we move forward and it turns out that the people who are against this, in fact, have the signatures, we have violated state law. Our option is to table it for 2 weeks. We've not taken any action. And then if, in fact, the pros have the signatures, we move forward like you want to do. And it's just 2 weeks delayed, that's all, because of the first reading. And if it turns out, in fact, the signatures are against, then we kill it at that time and we haven't violated state law. But if we vote right now, we are saying state law be damned. And I can't do that.
So let me ask this question. There obviously was enough information for us to think that there was majority to put it on first reading. And why would, with just somebody coming up tonight saying, I've got these signatures, you had information to put it on first reading?
We're correct.
And felt comfortable that we can either vote yes or no tonight.
Right, but those purportedly these new signatures would have come after the information that I received. So if this information is in fact valid, it supersedes what the information that I would have had before.
And that's one of the purposes of a public hearing. I mean, I want to go forward with this too, but there's no gray area. It's black and white.
Well, I'm in favor of this too, but we do know that they've done a lot of work and it's taken a long time. 2 weeks probably isn't going to make or break, but if we do violate state law, it could be an issue. I will withdraw my first and ask that it's put on the agenda in 2 weeks.
Thank you.
I will motion to table.
I'll second.
We have a motion and a second to table it. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Next is the first reading on ordinance number 02018-06, amending Mitchell City Code Section 5-6-1, fireworks.
Mr. Mayor, the only question I'd ask is, I mean, it took us months to contact some of these people, especially the out-of-town landowners. I don't know if 2 weeks, if any of us, if Justin or anyone can actually get a response back from these people.
We're going to have to do the best we can.
We'll all do the best we can, but yeah. I don't know the 2 week deadline is, it may be when we've contacted them.
Well, and if it, and Jeff, if it's not enough time, you know, we'll give it more time. But and it may be such a thing that 2 weeks is enough to find out that the anti-petition is no good, in which case we don't have to contact people again.
Will both sides have access to the other's petition?
I guess we'll do our best to try to make sure there's some cross-coordination.
I honestly believe we should take the initiative as the city
And that's what we'll have to do at
to
this
get the
point.
votes, because again, we as you guys coming forward, we trust you, but in all reality, people can change their mind tomorrow. So until they put it on an official ballot that Justin has put together, I don't think that we can trust.
What do you think? Send out like a certified letter to each person, or that way you know for sure they got
however
it.
Justin thinks it's, we can put it together.
Well,
But
you know they received it
and
anyway.
if you don't have ample response either way in 2 weeks, then you're going to have to tell us that we would like to either table or
Right.
put it on the agenda.
Yep.
'Cause
Yeah.
I guess we said table for 2 weeks, so we're going to have to table it again then. Okay.
And
So
in
you-
deference, and in deference to Mitchell Main Street, who have been working on this for so long, will you be sure and include in that all of the correct information that should be going out that truly identifies what is included and what the bid contains in terms of
That would be my
information?
intention, is to provide a kind of a neutral summary of the project.
Yeah, send out a certified letter, give them 15 days to respond, and if they do, they do. If they don't, they don't.
Justin, why don't you make for sure that Stephanie gets it so she can put that into our administrative update so we know what's going on.
Yeah, we'll try to keep the council apprised.
Thank you.
And for me, again, the crucial question is, do you get the double and triple vote?
You have a business owner that owns more than one property on Main Street, how many
Because you're going to
votes
pay
do they
what
get?
you're going to pay for each one of them, aren't you? Yeah, you're going to pay taxes on each one of them.
And another question that came up was that there is a business that is owned by 2 people, and one person is in favor and one person is against, and that building is the one that houses Ameriprise. So, just a little trivia.
So in that case, Justin, you're just going to have to make for sure that you, the majority owner, and if it's a 50-50, if one votes against it, then I don't think you can count it.
Right. I mean, hopefully we've got numbers that are far enough apart that we don't have to
That
come
would
down
be
to that.
nice.
But I think if you're getting taxed, you should get a vote. I mean, if you have 8 buildings on the street and you're getting taxed on all 8 of them, you should have 8 votes probably. That's my opinion.
Oh, that's one of the questions I'll get a definitive answer to.
We're done with discussion. Okay, move on to the fireworks. Okay, fireworks number 2.
Are you going to talk on fireworks, Ed? I thought you were getting up to talk on fireworks.
I am.
Okay. I have a question when you're done, not for you, but.
Ed Potzler. I have 2 comments regarding this ordinance. One is you're making 2 classes of citizens in Mitchell. Those who can enjoy the 4th of July the way they want to, and the majority of us who can't. I would like to have my address changed to within 100 feet of the lake so I can discharge fireworks and do as I want. But I think it's a dangerous area. We've lived here for 11 years. We've seen 10 displays from the northeast corner of the lake, within 100 feet of the lake. And dangerous situations have occurred. 3 years ago, we had 2 groups of teenagers using Roman candles, shooting them at each other. This was notified to the police. They said they were busy. They appeared 45 minutes later, and the action had ended when one kid caught his shirt on fire, and they ceased it. 2 years ago, we had a 2.5-inch mortar shell land between the cars and do damage to both of them. Last year, we had a little fire started because of fireworks on the sidewalk. So if you are going to amend the city council or the code to allow fireworks within 100 feet, the people who are watching the official fireworks display are going to be put in danger by that decision, because the people right now are illegally doing it, and I can't imagine what will happen if you legalize it. I think it'll get worse. So these are things that I would ask you to consider. I personally would like to have the ability to shoot fireworks off at my house, but I'm a block away from the high school, so I don't think that's probably going to happen. But why are we going to pick a segment which happens to be a richer segment, and I hate to do it because of money. I don't think that's the main motivation, but it just happens to fall that way, that these people are going to be able to celebrate the 4th of July in any mechanism they want, and the rest of us will be given tickets or put into jail. I don't think we have jailed many, but for doing the same thing. The drunkenness clause, I think, is kind of a joke, because the 4th of July is one of the holidays, at least in the Mitchell area, where alcohol runs kind of rampant, and I don't see people going around with breathalyzers or measuring tape for 100 feet to enforce this law or ordinance. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Ed. Is there anyone else that any more public comment? No one?
I guess as Ed kind of alluded to, it's not the intent behind the 100-foot rule was not, based off of wealth or I guess societal status or anything like that. But the fact is that the lake is not flammable, so it's a little bit safer to shoot fireworks off when half of your surroundings are not flammable, whereas in town everything around you's got that potential.
And the other part of that is that I believe 76% of the lake's shoreline is owned by the public citizens of Mitchell. 24%, I believe, is housing, giving the people of the community within the city limits to drive to a place and actually light off fireworks again. So I think the portion that we're looking at is giving everybody in our community a place to light fireworks off in a hopefully safe manner. So a small rebuttal on that of what Ed brought up is it's not about singling out just the residents out there. They're the small portion of the whole entire shoreline. Majority of it is owned by the rest of the people, well, owned by everybody, but part of the city in general, and everybody can use that within the city and surrounding areas, which is a part key to the ordinance. So,
just wanted to.
Yep, go ahead.
Didn't mean to cut you off or anything.
No,
but I wanted to bring up another alternative that was brought up at our management meeting this morning. There was some current concern with the 100-foot rule that if you apply that to all the public property around the lake, or I guess all the property around the lake, a lot of that is highly wooded, unmaintained shoreline. So there was a suggestion, instead of doing 100 feet from the shoreline, instead just designate out what areas around the lake that that are maintained, or the public areas that are maintained around the lake. So designate Sandy Beach, boat access, that kind of stuff, specifically, instead of trying to say it's just 100 foot around the lake. And then I think that would also include private residents around the lake too. But the way the ordinance is written right now, it's 100 foot all the way around. Whether the council thinks it should be that way, or it should be the other way, or it shouldn't be at all, that's up to you guys.
Well, you said the way the ordinance reads now, 100 foot.
The proposed.
Are you saying it's legal to
the way the ordinance is proposed right now?
Okay.
Yeah.
One question is, if it's illegal to shoot off fireworks in the city limits of Mitchell, why are we considering part of the city and not other parts of the city? And why have we picked the lake and not maybe a big football field that might not be affected? I've just got a lot of questions about, and then there's going to be more discussion, but maybe this little section of the lake, and that, nope. I'm just, in enforcement, I think could be hassle. There's just a lot of questions to be answered.
And I think that's fair. That's actually one of the first questions I had when I first started on this was, why pick just the lake and not the whole town if we're going to allow it on the 4th? And after speaking with Paul Morris, our assistant, or our assistant fire chief, sorry, I'm bad with titles. You know, he brought up the fact that, you know, the lake in itself is not flammable, so it's a little bit safer to keep the activity contained around that, as opposed to just doing it around town where everything around you has got the potential to start a fire, and everything's a lot closer together, so it's a lot easier for that fire to spread. So,
I have some family that lives up in northern Wisconsin where there's lakes everywhere. You can light fireworks year-round around the lakes as long as there isn't a fire, as long as there isn't a fire hazard going on. And they have no problem at all with. I mean, it might be November and people are lighting fireworks off. I mean, it's not just the 4th of July and around the lakes.
The way that this exception would be put into place, it's very similar to the way it would be up in Watertown at Lake Kempesca, where they allow fireworks on the 4th.
And my understanding, because it was that maybe this, and I'm looking at you, Marty, was that this maybe was just to kind of let us see how it goes around the lake, with the possibility at some point that we might expand those parameters.
Yes, I'll let Ed speak, and then I'll have just have a little bit of soapbox for a minute. I've been doing a lot of work the last couple of weeks, and a lot of it's getting thrown around a little bit, and I'd like to sort of give an idea or let people know where I believe it's at, and we can go from there. But what else do you have, Ed?
I would just like to make a comment. For 8 years, I was a firefighter paramedic in an area where fireworks were absolutely banned, which was Illinois. For 8 years, 10 years, my wife and I have feared literally for our lives with the illegal fireworks that are being displayed within 100 feet of the corner across from where the legal fireworks are set off. You are going to turn over and concentrate a population that may or may not know how to adequately handle fireworks, and concentrate them around people who are there trying to enjoy the presentation that the city is putting on for our enjoyment. I know that there were a lot of people very concerned with the adjunct fireworks being set off. And as you say, a lot of that is just wooded area. If people do choose to set off fireworks in those wooded areas, you have just made firefighting a miserable job to get to in those areas. So my concern is I would rather have a clear field where fires aren't likely to occur. Yes, the water will not burn, or depending on the amount of algae in it, it might burn with a green flame, who knows. But besides that, concentrating, I love fireworks. I want to shoot mine off. And I think it would be better if you just remove the ban from the city and let people do it in their own backyards and let them put out their little fires with fire hoses, with water hoses, than concentrate them where they might injure other people who are there for another purpose. That will conclude my comments. Thank you.
Hi. Well, I'll go ahead and start a little more discussion on it. The story goes back even to the days of Lou Sieber when he was the mayor. There was sort of some discussion behind the scenes of possibly trying to make fireworks legalized throughout the city. Didn't really go a whole lot further. Never did get to council. Never did get to the public. It just sort of died by the wayside. For what reasons, I have no idea. I was hoping to see it even at that time years ago to come forth to the council and, of course, the public to find out what their perception is on it. A while back, I approached the mayor, Jerry, and, of course, Lyndon Overweg, and just sort of visit with them privately of, what their thought is on trying to move forward and work with our community and the citizens out there that are obviously and clearly lighting off fireworks, even though the fact that it's totally illegal to do that. So what can we do to try to move forward? We had plenty of discussions going back and forth, even down to the thought of the entire city of Mitchell, everywhere, from within the entire city of Mitchell doing just any fireworks work to ground fireworks only within the city of Mitchell, from 23rd Street in this way and aerial fireworks that way because of the lake. A lot of things got proposed, no doubt about it, and trying to make everybody able to do this is one of the biggest things. I've talked to several people that love to go out in their backyard with their kids, their little kids, and light the little dinky fireworks off, and it still happens. It happens on every single street corner inside of the city of Mitchell. Happens on every year, and it's going to keep on happening, even though it's totally illegal. But people just sort of overlook it because they're the little fireworks. It's the ones that somebody wants to abuse and light up the big ones that go above, and it's on 3rd Street and probably not exactly the proper place. We all know out by Lake Mitchell, it's just a little more spread out. We don't have near as many houses out there. There's obviously, once again, 3/4 of the lake shoreline is controlled by just open areas. Yeah, some are a little bit wooded more than others, some aren't. I'm going to tell you right now, there's some good fishing areas down. If you walk down through some of those wooden trees, then you come down to a nice big open shoreline that you can actually sit on with no trees above, no woods around, and actually fish off of. But you got to walk through something to get it. A lot of little spots all over Lake Mitchell, and not just the public areas like Kibbe Park, Sandy Beach, the steps, the boat ramps, amphitheater. There's so many areas around our lake that have beautiful areas to climb on down to and utilize some open space that is very safe, I guess is what I'm trying to get at. So yeah, I've been out there around the Lake Mitchell pretty much all my life enjoying the fireworks, and it's a beautiful night that goes on. And obviously it's a beautiful night that goes on not in the accordance of the law. And it still happens every single year, and it's never stopped. It's never slowed down. I can't say it's picked up or not, but it's going on everywhere. I even see it even happen, of course, in City Mitchell. Every once in a while you can look out above the city and all of a sudden something goes up. Obviously it was clearly in town, but it went off, and we know what the statute says there too. So after working with them just a little bit, we just trying to figure out maybe a way to try to move forward in a positive direction, working with the community, working with the #1 area that we believe people are lighting off fireworks. Are they happening all throughout town? Yes. Is 80% of them happening around the lake? Probably the answer is yes. Just because that's where people migrate to. They migrate out there to light them off because they believe it's a safer area, which is a great choice, I guess. And they also migrate out there because eventually there's going to be a nice light show that we provide for all our people in our area, let alone hopefully surrounding areas choose Mitchell. So there's no one reason, I guess, that was really a proposal why I wanted to put this on for the council to consider and for our public to decide, or at least let us know. And from it, it went down from is it a good thing for police calls? Obviously, right now, police have got to get phone calls. What do they got to do when they get a phone call? They have to go to the call. You get there, the ordinance. You cannot write a ticket just because you get there and the kids are standing there with their punk in their hand. You got to see them light the firework. That's the way the law reads. So issuing a ticket is sadly to say next to none or almost impossible to do unless you physically see them. Yeah, there's a track record that was going out for the last few years. Our city basically gets about 60 complaints a year, and that's over the whole course of the year. Minimal during the 4th of July area. I think it's last year was maybe 16 or 17. We got the real numbers, but it's pretty minimal. 1 citation written in the last 5 years, and you know where that was at? In the city, not by the lake, in the city limits, inside the city. And then 3 warnings were issued in the last 7 years. Where at? All in town, not out by the lake. It just sort of seems that's what the people and the stature of our nature of our community and the people are is, hey, let's go out by the lake. It seems to be that safer place to light fireworks. So how we got down to that area is the main purpose, I guess, behind it. And it wasn't, like I said, just police calls wasn't it. I'm looking at it being, I hope people choose Mitchell to come to. I mean, we're always talking about sales tax dollars being down. Let's make people come here and choose Mitchell to spend more money at, to come and eat supper, go to our convenience stores, maybe stay overnight, buy the fireworks here, go out to our lake, light them off. I don't know. We're always worried about our sales tax dollars, what help pays majority of our bills. let's keep that number going in the positive direction. So I'm just sort of jumping on the thing of, Mitchell being our place of destination. Let's keep it going forward in a positive way. So that's sort of the other reason why I sort of try to put something together, and hopefully it'll work out for everybody involved. So there wasn't one thing that really got me going each way. The current ordinance, the way it is written, I do have some reservations on it, as in the way it's written. I'm not really in support of the way it is, with plenty of discussion. And I'm not going to speak for Lyndon. I think you'll have something to say here in a little bit. But when it came up at one time, and I think, Paul, you might have been a part of it, but it was 50 feet, and then I was looking at 200 to get it up a little ways from the water, because 50 feet, there's some areas that wouldn't even be in play, because in the first 50 feet it's a cliff and falling off into the mud and all these areas. So I was trying to look more of trying to get it back a little bit. It came out with the 100 feet area. But the areas that we're looking at that we want people to go are public areas that are open. And yes, they're going to still find those areas that they're going to walk down these trails and find these great finish spots. But areas that come up on the map that come up to be like the Kibbe Park and all that kind of stuff. Well, the 100 feet ordinance cuts right through the parking lot of Kibbe Park. So are we going to get our tape measures out? I guess what I'm trying to say. And then, okay, that way you can't do it, but this way you can. It just seems like the line was too fine and really going to, in my mind, cause even more problem than we currently have right now, because of the fact of where the locations are. And some of the best lighting places are definitely a little bit further away from 100 feet. I'm not saying they're 500 feet, but they're probably 200, or they're up on a plateau that's more stabilized, it's set down, where you can actually light a firework off. You're not on a hill, you're not slanted. You want them in areas that are safe where the firework goes up in the air, not shooting at an angle and falling over when it goes off. So I think by doing the 100 feet, we're taking a lot of those good prime spots out of place. I know around Lake Mitchell very, very well, and I know the areas that people aren't even going to attempt to go to, and I know the places they're going to attempt to go to, because it's just what it is and what I've seen over the past 30-some years of my life, because I don't remember the first 5. But me too. But I'm just trying to get something that I believe is going to work well, and like I said, I'm doing this with the support of the mayor. I'm doing this with the support of Lyndon. And I've talked to a few other police officers that are up a little higher in stature that definitely think this would be a good thing. The biggest thing, and I think Lyndon, like I said, he can speak himself, but is to give something a try for 1 year. You know what? If it don't go over, we can take it off as quick as we put it on. But right now, what's going on is people are lighting fireworks out, majority around the lake. We ain't never going to stop them. So do we want to keep on chasing these phone calls, or do we want to try to work with the public that's going to do it anyway? Because we have never, ever, ever stopped it. It ain't going to. I don't care what we do. Even if we say we're going to throw you in jail, they're still going to light them off, because you got to see them to do it. So I just want to try to work and try to move something forward. So not, like I said, once again, it's not about phone calls. I think it's trying to make Mitchell a better place and try to get things going the right way. One other thing I want to add is I had some people voice a concern about, obviously you get done, you got fireworks that are usually sitting there, and it's going to cause some mess and debris, garbage to pick up or whatever. Obviously, we all know we currently have that going on. I talked to Nathan Powell on a little bit. I said, what goes on every year? And he goes, well, every year we got to go around the lake and pick up garbage and fireworks that got lit off, and they're still sitting there on our public areas. And that's what they got to do. Obviously, this clearly could create probably some more garbage to go on. But obviously, another thing, a promotion of the city of Mitchell. I have reached out to, right now, just one of the firework vendors in town, and I'm not going to say their name right now just because of the fact I want to know if we have approval before we start getting a little more going into it. But I reached out to them and I said, would you be interested in trying to support a type of cleanup? Basically, maybe give some money to a pot that would go into, and maybe we reach out to the Boy Scouts or other organizations, not necessarily them, but it could be anybody. The Kiwanis Club, I don't know, whoever maybe is looking to make some money for their kitty and their organization to go out and maybe it's a certain area they're cleaning up, like, okay, the Camp Aurora is your spot to clean up when it's afterwards, or, the amphitheater, whatever it may be. Just help out our Parks Department on alleviating some of this. They absolutely were all full and blast doing something, working out numbers that we talked about from the one was $500, maybe $1,000, which ain't huge numbers, but if you get 3 or 4 of them to get on board, and we got $5,000 to work with, I think we can get some good organizations behind to help clean up efforts, probably way more than what we got currently in place. And I don't know what we all have in place, but I know we probably don't have a lot of that going on. I think the extra money might help us do it. The one other thing I did talk to Jeff Miedema Sanitation, and I asked him, I said, and I know we have garbage cans all around all our public areas. He's willing to donate. He didn't say an exact number, but a number we threw out was 10 dumpsters. Put them periodically around Lake Mitchell in pick spots by Nathan Powell and the Park and Rec Department where they want to be put at, Kibbe Park, Public Beach, amphitheater, some boat docks, whatever like that, basically saying dispose of your fireworks here. Once again, is everybody going to do that? Absolutely not. We hope people, if we educate them and hope we respect it, and they'll end up putting them in the dumpsters. I believe some people will. I believe majority will, but we're still going to have the ones that are they're going to leave them. And we're never going to stop that. Once again, those that are going to leave it are probably the ones that were lighting them illegal the last time of years anyway. So, and hopefully this way they might actually get on board and say, wow, they're going to let me legally light them off. You know what I'm going to do? Out of respect, I'm going to put my firework and put it in that dumpster now over there. So I'm just trying to put something together that I believe is a positive thing for the city of Mitchell. Can actions happen? Can a fire start? They can happen without this ordinance getting changed because it still goes off. So I respect Paul's choices on that and that's what his position should be on some fire things. That's what you do. But it can happen tomorrow. It can happen on, St. Patty's Day. I mean, obviously with the calls Lyndon has gave me, they light off fireworks during the year all year long because there's calls in February and in March and April. There might not be that many, but they're going on anyway already. So I'm just trying to confine it to a couple nights that we can legally do it. And maybe people will stop doing it other times because they say, you know what, I can legally go out on July 3rd from noon to midnight or July 4th from noon to midnight and light off fireworks in my great city of Mitchell. And that's all I want to try to do is move things in a positive manner. We're never going to get 100% people on board, but I can tell you right now, the people that know that I've been behind this ordinance, I've got a lot of support for it, and it ain't just from the people of Lake Mitchell. It's from people in the community of Mitchell, knowing that they have a place to go with their families, watch it, and light them off if they want. Or to sit out there and enjoy all the other people lighting off fireworks. Let me tell you, it's beautiful out there on those 2 nights.
Marty, I've got a couple concerns. One, it's like, well, we can't police it. It's going to happen anyway, so let's make it legal. I don't know that that's such a great argument. And secondly, I asked before, why not where I live? Why can't I do it? And why can't I do it? There's a park across the way that's a public property and fairly open. Why don't we include those areas? I mean, it's just it's hard to enforce. You've got a partial law now. It's okay here, but not over there.
And that's one thing. That's the nice thing about first reading is we can change and talk about the rules. Some of those questions have came up. Is the parks within the city? The Doty Park and Pat and Young, to make those areas are legal also with this radius around Lake Mitchell, being it where people can walk down the street that live over on Palmer Place and walk and light their fireworks off in a safe, open environment also. I mean, it's been talked about that too. The nice thing about first ordinance is you can do that. The other thing that's some discussion behind is, do we do the baby step approach a little bit? Let's find out how it works out here, and then maybe next year you try to do it within the whole city. I think Brandon Valley, if I'm not mistaken, Lynn, did they do the entire city last year or 2 years ago?
I don't know.
Okay.
On Brandon.
I thought it was the whole city, but once again, don't quote me on it, but I believe it was. They said it went over great because people just didn't get disrespectful. They started saying, okay, it's legal now, let's go and do it, and let's do it in a respectful way. Lake Compesca has been doing it for a long time. They've been doing it right around their lake. The biggest thing is their perimeter is a little bit different. I believe it's sort of the roadways define that area. So you're not worried about what's 101 feet and what's 100 feet. So I agree with you, John, if it's something that where we want to take a look at the whole entire city of Mitchell, but I just don't know if we jump into that right now or not. I'm not opposed to it. If you all voted here and say, let's move forward and do the whole city of Mitchell, I'm going to say I also. Don't worry about that. I was just trying to sort of ease it into the community, and maybe each year we got to take a look at how far we can go with it. And like I said, some of the thoughts were ground fireworks inside the areas where more residents are at and only aerial out there. But once again, I'm not trying to separate the two, but we got to start somewhere to try to move Mitchell first more and keep it going in a positive way, I guess. So.
50 years ago, I read a book called Follow My Leader, and it's about little Jimmy who plays with fireworks, and it blinds him. And the rest of the story is about him learning Braille and dealing with a guide dog and how it dramatically changed his life. I understand your arguments, but I just think that fireworks are dangerous. They're dangerous to the individual firing them off. They're dangerous to the surrounding area. And they're dangerous to people who, aren't involved, but they're in the arc of the landing or whatever. So I guess I would like to see us go the opposite direction and not, in fact, encourage this at all, but crack down on individuals who fire these off. I just don't understand why we would encourage a dangerous activity and then encourage it in a very concentrated area. So I'll be voting no.
Lyndon, I'm just going to ask you straight up. The lake, do you see less of an issue out there than you do in town?
We do. And when Marty first approached me, that's one of the things we looked at. Paul and I visited just the amount of water out there, the amount of non-combustible area. It's the same reason we don't have our main fireworks display set off at 7th and Main. It's safer out at the lake. Okay. Now, do we stay with the 100 feet? I don't know. I mean, it got pointed out to me this morning. If you stay with 100 feet, they actually can set off fireworks on part of the golf course because how close the water is by the Indian Village just across the road. So, and the cemetery, by the cemetery. I mean, so that may not be the total answer. Maybe we do the roadway. We go from 23rd to Indian Village to South Harmon to West Harmon to North Harmon. Something like, kind of like Watertown did. But ultimately, it's going to come down to you as the council deciding if you want to try this. And I would say we try it. The other thing I would say we should add into it, right in the ordinance, is if there's a burn ban in effect, county burn ban in effect, that this is suspended. And also I would recommend that the campground itself be accepted out of this ordinance. Since some people are, they're renting a spot. It's a little bit different circumstance, but just a few things. Are fireworks dangerous? Yes, they are. There's a risk involved. Was there last year? Yeah. Was there the year before? Was it the last 20 years? Yes, there is a risk. Some, other people say, if I know that's where it's going to be, I'm not going there. I'm going to sit back a half mile and watch the main fireworks, or all the others. I'm just not going to go up close. That's their choice. But them are all things to think about. There are other cities that do this. Whether we want to try it or not, I don't know. If you don't
get a lot of calls out the lake, Lyndon? You get a lot of calls to go out to the lake?
Yeah, I think we had 17 or something last year. I don't know.
Then you got to go out there 17 times.
Yeah, I mean I think that was the whole town.
Yeah.
Just on July 4th itself. Yeah. Now, if you want to do July 3rd and July 4th, you wouldn't have to. You could try July 4th just the first year. Watertown, they do just July 4th itself, just one day. Them are all things you can consider. But like Marty said, the night before the 4th of July, a lot of people do participate in things.
They don't work on the 4th of July.
Doesn't mean it's right.
Linda, why is the campground any different than somebody who, lives around the lake and is trapped there because their home is there? Why is it any different?
I don't know if it'd be different, but I don't know if they knew that when they rented the spot. The people around the lake, they're living there year round, but I don't know if they knew that when they rented that spot or got their reservation, if they knew they were going to be setting off.
The other thing I would say about the campground is keep in mind that just the density of people and vehicles that occur on a holiday weekend like that throughout the campground. If you've driven through there, it's
I understand that, but now we're going to concentrate the whole town out of the lake, and we don't seem to be concerned about the density then. So I'm trying to understand what the difference is between a group of people who are close to the lake in a dense situation and then people that were saying, if you want to do this, go out to this area and this area and this area, and we're concentrating them there. But that doesn't seem to be a problem.
Because they're electing to go.
What's that?
They're electing to go there. The people in the campground are stuck. They're there for the weekend.
Some people from out of town might come to the campground because they could fire our new law. We could fire off.
And you can put it in. I'm just throwing that out.
Campers in there.
Right. Well, not saying they couldn't walk down to the beach or along Highway 37 there and do it. But.
Let me just say one quick thing that's off topic. I was very surprised to find out that remember Jim Sellers used to run the Corn Palace. He was in charge of the motels out at Keystone. And I was going to be there on July 4th, and he personally answers every reservation for July 4th because Mount Rushmore doesn't do fireworks on July 4th because it's a federal holiday and they don't have any federal workers and, you know, that kind of thing. So to John's point, so I'm coming to Mitchell and camping so I can fire off fireworks.
And if you want to do
the
it,
cops are there.
let them do it. I mean, that was simply a recommendation from people that may not know what they're getting into when they come to our city.
The one thing I happened to visit with Lennon too about, you know, we went back and forth on the 100 foot thing, and that's one of the biggest issues that I'm definitely not in favor of, just because the fact is, I just think it'll add to a patrolling nightmare than it will by just sadly say staying where it's totally illegal, because I think we're going to get a portion of, okay, on this side of the line. With Linden coming up to where the roadways are, I think that's a very definitive area. Everything from this side of the road to the lake, legal to go. Anything on the other side, it does not. I don't think you can get the black and white any better than that, especially for a police officer to say, no, you're on the wrong side of that road, and that's not able to be done. I think if you want to try to get into a business area, I think that's what we change in this ordinance and say the roadways, and we describe them out, Highway 37, all the Harmons, Indian Village Road, and 23rd, to make it everything within the confines of that towards the lake is legal to go. Campground, in and out, it doesn't bother me. There wasn't no reason. I just think Linda has some points about maybe people that don't know they're going to get that and they're coming here, but like John says, they might be more apt to want to come because of the fact now they can go there and actually light off fireworks. So I think it's sort of back and forth a little bit about it. But I like that thing. The other portion of the ordinance, I think right now, if I remember somewhere, it says something about the perimeter of a vehicle or something to that point. Well, once again, all the areas that we were going to look at, there's going to be, right now you can park a car within 10 feet of the Lake Mitchell all over on Sandy Beach, Kibbe Park, and I believe it's over there by the steps area. I mean, there's multiple areas you can literally park within 10 feet of Lake Mitchell. And once again, if our confines of the roadway or not, I don't want to get into, well, you can't light it on the car, because then you might still not do this, because you know what, there's going to be cars a little bit everywhere, and all of a sudden, well, I can't go there, well, but I can't go that way because I'm too close to that. I mean, you know, I think you're, once again, what I'm trying to look at is make something very simple. Simple that the people of this town and people that come to our town to visit will understand what is right, what is wrong, what's legal, what is not legal. The more we try to get into ifs, buts, ands, ors, the more problems that we're going to have, and the more I will guarantee you our police officers are going to be running around chasing these madnesses. I just want to make something simple. I think Linda came up with a great idea. The roadways are the dividing line. We try it there. I would love to see it throughout the whole city eventually. I'm just trying to take it one step at a time to appease the people of our community so we don't just go jumping in all at once. So I think that's a great area to start with there, because the majority of the lighting goes out there already every single year it happens.
I think if the chief of police is for it, I'm for it. I mean, if he's good with it, I'm good with it. I mean, he's the one that's got to patrol it.
Just to be clear, so if you're saying that the roadway is the definitive spot, what about the private residences that would be on the north side of that road? They're out too then. Okay.
Yeah. They want to walk across the road, they can do that. I just think we got to start somewhere.
And Mel, with all due respect, I do understand about the dangers. I've given a lot of thought to this myself. But I also think that, I mean, you could say the same thing about a lot of things that are dangerous in this world. We could say that about alcohol. Why don't we just crack down and say no alcohol? And while you and I may say that's not a bad idea, you know, in the real world, you know, people have the right to make their own choices and to make decisions for their own lives. And I think that we can't necessarily legislate safety. I think we need to, at some point, realize that some things come with a label of danger, and people understand that. It's inherent in what they're doing. And so we make it legal and give them some parameters and make it as safe as we possibly can, and trust that they're going to make good choices. I think currently, you know, Mr. Potzler talked about we're doing the haves and the have-nots. Currently, I think that we do that anyway, because some people live out of town, and if you're in the country, you can do it all you want. So those people that live in the country, or that know someone that lives in the country, are able to go out and participate in this. And And I think it would be nice if we gave the people who live in the city limits an opportunity to share what has become a great tradition in this country of having fireworks. As an aside, I do always make my children tell me, why is it that we do fireworks? We have a little lesson on on the being patriotic and all of those things. But anyway, that's neither here nor there. But I do support this, and I think that it's a good thing for our city.
I do have just
that we legislate safety all the time. And when it comes to gunpowder, the laws are 18 or 21, depending on what state you're in, as far as firearms go. So
I do just have a request on the campground that you would allow the park board to make that decision on whether or not it should be allowed in the campground.
So, Justin, we've got an ordinance before us, and we're talking about doing some major changes to it. Is it something we can even place on first reading tonight? And of course, I think the majority of this is the people are hearing this for the first time anyway.
Right. And there was some question about whether it should be first reading or whether it should be discussion for tonight.
Okay.
Ultimately, we went with first reading just in case it happened to be what people like.
But if we would go with the roadways, would you suggest that we table at this point? Or
I think tabling it would be better, and then we can bring back the alternative for a first reading too.
Yeah, I like the idea of the roadway, and I like the idea of the park board making the decision if they want to pull some areas out, especially the campground.
Yeah, because we also have rentals, at day camp and those. So I mean, it'd be up to the renter that's using the facility.
Just for clarification on what I'm looking at, and I believe we're okay. And the reason why I was sort of pushing the first reading with changes coming back at second reading is timeline to make sure it's approval for July 4th. We only have so many, defeats the purpose if we're trying to get something done and it can't go in place until 2019. So, right, because we have to have 20 days, right, or something.
Yep.
Right. So I just want to make sure for that process happen to make the legality of it to come place if there is support for it.
Yeah, if we're going to stick to the the normal meeting schedule, we'll want to have at least a first reading done at the next meeting.
Okay.
So.
Then the second one would be June 4th, if I'm doing my map right, which would give us easy 20 days if there is approval. I'm not saying there is, but if there was, I just want to make sure I'm understanding it right. That we're not all of a sudden, we're having a special meeting for one little thing when we can do this the proper way when we're at scheduled meetings. So that's my only concern. But as long as we feel good on those other two, I'm good with tabling it and then come back with the new ordinance written for first reading. So. No, that's not my motion. My motion would be move forward with the changes. But I understand what your thoughts are on it. If Justin needs time to clean it up, I mean, I think from my understanding what some of the thought is, and maybe giving at least Justin some direction, is the roadways are a definitive answer of what's legal and what's not legal, is one thing. Obviously, we have the alcohol thing in there. Whatever it may be is a judgment call, I guess, on a police officer's what's considered you're unable to light a firework and what isn't. And then the other thing about the motor vehicles, like I said, I think if that stays in there, it defeats the purpose of passing an ordinance. So I'd like to see the vehicles removed from it. So, and bring it back and see what discussion we have on that.
Would that roadway include 37?
Yes.
Along the dam?
Yep. Okay. I believe that's what you were thinking, Lynn, right? Highway 37 would be the dividing line. Yep. So.
And I think John brings a good point up. Do we take it all the way through the city at this point in time? And I have a tendency to agree with Marty. Is maybe let's just do it in a little bit of baby steps and just kind of see how things go and have Lyndon report back to us. And then if we want to start opening up parks or neighborhoods or the whole city, then at least we've got something to go on. But Watertown does it this way right now. And Steve and I had a little sidebar. He shot fireworks off as a little kid. And so obviously it's working for Watertown. That happens just to be one city, but there's not many cities in South Dakota that has a lake pretty much within the city limits. Right. So that's at least a model we can look at. So I guess I'm in favor of it. I guess we can count noses to see if that's what we want Justin to do, but I'm in favor of what Marty just proposed of tabling it, so I'll make that motion.
Well, wait, before you do that, you know, I'm going to be against this no matter what, but I think the legislative intent has been expressed here. So while I'm going to vote no, I don't see any problem moving ahead with first reading and then making the changes that you've talked about next time. If Justin doesn't see a problem with that, and that'll save you the 2 weeks.
I'm fine with making that motion of first reading with the changes that we've discussed, working with Lyndon, obviously, on those parameters that we discussed. So
My only concern with that is that these are going to be some pretty substantial changes, and we've got state law that says when you're making substantial changes to the ordinance, you've got to bring it back for another hearing. So I don't think that that's going to save us any time.
Well, I'll second that. I just wonder if these really are substantial changes because, you know, if you talk about the 100 feet, in some places you're adding another 20 feet.
My motion was tabled.
Right, and I'm since Justin wants it tabled, I'm seconding your motion. So.
Motion to table it in a second. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign.
no.
Motion carries. It's tabled. Entertain a motion to adjourn. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Adjourn.
Thanks for the wonderful night of fireworks. On a couple different issues.